And I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me. Better is a one day in your car. Better is a one day in your house. Better is a one day in your car than 1,000 elsewhere.
Hey everyone, are you rad for Christ? Are you fired up for Jesus? All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Radical Christianity. I'm Drew, your host, and we have a great show lined up for you today. So, have you heard of the charter school in Tallahassee, Florida, who forced their principal to resign because of a photo of the statue of David by Michelangelo was shown in an art history lesson featuring the Renaissance period? Well, let me just note, the classical 17-foot David statue depicts the biblical character with a slingshot over his shoulder and a rock in his hand, clothed only in the armor of God. This statue has been on public display in Florence, Italy for the past 500 years. Some of the parents of the sixth graders called the image of the nude statue pornographic. Now, Hillsdale College, a Christian liberal arts college who provided the curriculum, revoked the license over the incident. So I have a question. Can anyone really be forced to resign? Seems like a contradiction to me. Anyway, all right. So if you ask me, Michelangelo's statue of David, which portrays the providence and protection of God, is one of the most important artworks ever created for marble. However, it's pretty clear some people have taken it for granted. Hey, what do I know? Maybe it's a good thing. I mean, we don't want anyone developing an art history addiction. Big threat these days, right? Okay. Not everyone was opposed to Michelangelo's great works being shown in the classroom. Some students were even seen wearing orange eye masks and carrying signs that said turtle power. Oh wait, I'm not sure they got the right Michelangelo there. I mean, for all the support, these kids do not seem to actually know what the story of David and Goliath was in the Bible. It's a story of a small underdog who overcomes a literal giant, right? 9-foot adversary, taking him out with a small rock and a slingshot. I mean, nailing Goliath right between the eyes. You know the story, right? I'm sure some people think that Goliath is what people do when they take a nap. Okay, all right, I know. Goliath sleeping, I get it, laying down in bed. Speaking of naps, a perfect place for a nap is the 5-star King David Hotel in Jerusalem. A well-known place, right? But it seems nobody has ever heard of the Goliath Hotel, which is much larger and only a stone's throw away. I know. So you know the Bible story, but do you know that David was actually considered the world's greatest babysitter mentioned in the Bible? Why? Well, he rocked Goliath to sleep. Okay. One more thing. So why was Goliath surprised when David nailed him between the eyes with a slingshot? Well, because the thought had never entered his head before. All right, everyone. We have an amazing show coming up with guests Michael Prichard, author of Better Than Well, and Lonnie Pelley, Fresno's clean comedian. We are also excited to have you join us for another great episode of Radical Christianity. Let's get ready for another show together. Tell me, are you rad for Christ? Are you fired up for Jesus? All right. Woo! All right, everyone, thank you for joining us today. It is so excited to introduce this next guest. This is a good friend of mine. He's doing a lot of great things. He's got this book out right now called Better Than Well. He also has a pretty popular podcast going on that's been recently launched. And I am looking forward to you all joining me as we welcome Michael Prichard. Hey, woo! Man, I'm glad you're here. Oh, okay. So it is great to be here, right? Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. So Our audience is very interested in all the things you have to say. Obviously, you have this book here on Amazon, Better Than Well. But before we get into any of that, I would like you to tell everybody your testimony.
Oh wow. Maybe I should start with what I currently do. So I'm currently a staff analyst with Fresno County Department of Behavioral Health. I teach part time for Fresno State in criminology as well, and train for UC Davis and Fresno State. So child welfare workers, contracted training, and I own Covenant Training Consulting. All of that surrounds substance use disorder, which is my area of expertise. But I didn't start off doing what I do today in a professional sense, right? I grew up here. I'm a Fresno native. Actually, grew up in Clovis, and my life was pretty good till about the age of 6. And I had a pretty good upbringing. My dad had some problems, though. He was an alcoholic, and he ended up getting shot and killed here in Fresno County when I was 6 years old.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. Well, needless to say, I mean, that just took the wind out of my sails. I acted out at school, had problems getting along with peers and adults. And so I was kind of labeled a problem kid. Shortly after that, I had some sexual abuse issues happen to me that was also very difficult, but I didn't feel like I could tell anybody about it because, I didn't have these trusting relationships in my life. I had trusting adults, but I was always in trouble, so I didn't feel like I could trust anybody. So anyway, I kind of experienced a lot of rejection from people around me. That was my feeling, and so I started hanging out with other kids that had problems like me, and that led to drug and alcohol use very young. By the time I was 10 years old, I was already a half a pack a day smoker. I was alcoholic by 12. I was using pills and meth by 14, and then at 15 years old, I was diagnosed with a mental health condition and hospitalized for a short time. They tried to treat me. I didn't really want to take my medication, so I kept using drugs. And I had my first overdose at 16 on methamphetamine. 17, I was in my first rehab. 18 in my second rehab. And then I got clean and sober shortly because I found out I was going to have a son. And I didn't want history to repeat itself. In fact, he was born at the exact same age I was born with my dad. And so I love this little boy very much, but I really struggled. When me and his mother split up, he was still pretty little, and I just kind of went off the deep end. I didn't know how to deal with my emotions, and I relapsed at the age of 23. And between the ages of 23 and 31, I went through like 5 or 6 more drug treatment programs, medical detox for opioid and meth addiction, in and out of county jail, in and out of our local psychiatric hospitals, in prison twice, divorced twice, and had to sign custody of my son over to his mother because I was incapable of parenting at that point. And so this whole time, from the time I was little until my last prison violation in 2006, I was raised in church. My mother was a believer. She prayed for me. She was very young. She didn't know how to handle what was going on with me, but I felt God really pursuing me my whole life. I had these encounters, what I would consider God encounters my whole life, where God would make His presence known. People would tell me, you're having problems, but I know there's a plan and purpose for your life. Specifically, don't know what it is. Well, at 31, I was on death's door. My mom was planning my funeral before I went to my last, because she was convinced I was going to die. I was in car accidents, overdoses, and she was still praying. In 2006, when I was in prison, she wrote me a letter. My mom had said, I can't have contact with you anymore. And when she did that, in that prison term, in that 8-month window, nobody thought I would get well, but God did a miraculous thing in prison in 2006. And 8 months later, I came out completely well, to the absolute shock of everyone around me. I was in there reading, because none of the treatments they were giving me were working, so I was desperate and finally surrendered to the spiritual calling that was on my life. And as I began to read the scriptures, they really came alive and started to penetrate me in ways that my learning in church didn't penetrate me prior. I had head knowledge, but it didn't really get to me at a heart level. And so when I was reading through scriptures, I mean, it was like I was a sobbing mess for like 8 months. It was just really touching me. I started to exercise. I started to get motivated to pursue health. And it was really miraculous because I didn't have this motivation before. And I felt like, okay, you know, there's a plan and purpose for all of us. There's a plan and purpose for my life. And, I received, forgiveness from God, sought out a lot of repentance over things that I had done, healing over things that had happened to me. And Jesus just met me where I was in prison. And when I came out, I didn't have anybody, because my mom had written me off. She wasn't convinced that I was going to continue to do well. And so I got a job and started going to recovery church and meetings, and ended up meeting my wife shortly after that. We're still married 15 years today. And people started to see that I was doing well. So I eventually went back to school, got my undergrad in Christian studies. I wanted to go into ministry. I mean, God had a different ministry for me to do. So I got certified as a drug and alcohol counselor. And I didn't necessarily want to do that, but I didn't know what options I had, and I knew addiction well. So basically, what happened was God started to open doors for me that should not have been opened for a felon. I got hired on by Marjorie Mason Center. I worked for CPS. I finished my graduate program in addiction studies at CPS. And then I got hired on by Fresno State Training Academy to train social workers in 12 counties. And then after that, I transferred to Department of Behavioral Health, ended up sitting on the board of the California Consortium of Addiction Programs and Professionals, and they're the biggest certifying body for drug and alcohol counselors. I ended up being president of that board eventually, and legislative chair, doing advocacy work at the state level, at the federal level. And now I teach part-time at Fresno State, and do my own business doing education and assessment in the community as well. And so over this I'll be clean and sober for 17 years in May. And over this period of time, God has just rebuilt my life. Before I left prison, I remember getting down on my knees at my bunk, and I knew that I had been changed. And I just said, God, show the world what you can do with a person who turns their life over to you. And that's what he's done. And so that's what the book is about. The book is that story from beginning to end. What were the risk factors that got me there? Where was God at throughout the mess? How did God deal with me specifically, as his child, and bring me to the place where I am today, and then create these avenues where he's enabled me to serve the community the way that I do. So I, essentially become a spokesman on this topic of addiction and trauma, and it touches everything in society. It touches our legal system, it touches the hospitals, it touches child welfare, it touches everything. And because of that, my experience that everybody thought was going to destroy me ended up becoming an asset, because that's what God does with lives that he turns around. He uses our experience for his kingdom and his purposes later.
It's kind of amazing how, like, all that stuff we thought, like, what am I doing? What's all this stuff I'm doing? And then it all makes sense when God decides to use it. Right?
Yeah. And that's the hard part with faith, is like, I went through a lot of periods, especially when I got out of prison. I was like, I don't understand this. I didn't understand the layoffs. I didn't understand, like, when me and Darlene got married, that, some of the family stuff that was going on. Like, I just really wanted a second chance and rebuild my life. And there was a lot of struggles. There was a lot of waiting. There was a lot of twists and turns that I didn't understand. But looking back, every single one of those steps was leading to the next open door. But God in his sovereignty didn't just open doors. He also welded one shut that I tried to go through on my own. So I didn't detour from, his plan and direction for me. So, today I do a lot in the community, but I think the most important things that I do is that, I'm a good husband today to Darlene, and I have my grandkids are grown. I got 2 stepdaughters out of the marriage, and I have 4 grandchildren now. Wow. That I get to pour into, and I get kind of a do-over with my grandkids, and it's just this amazing life that all this responsibility that I was trying to avoid and check out of with drugs and alcohol those years was the very thing that brought me the purpose, because I'm operating within God's plan for my life. And so the podcast kind of echoes that same thing. I wrote my story, Better Than Well, which is available everywhere, and it's actually on Audible as well. But the book really was me telling my story so that I can actually do the podcast. The podcast is other people's stories who may not have any desire to write a book, may never write a book, but they can talk about their story. And so I have people on the podcast that have struggled with mental health issues, childhood trauma, addiction, and have overcome these obstacles through a variety of different ways, many of them through directly, from God encounters like I had. And it highlights the fact that people do recover and get well. The media likes to talk about all the bad things that are happening in the community, right? But we have more people in active recovery than we have in active addiction. And that's not told to the public, and so I wanted the podcast to do that. And so now, people are wanting to come on the podcast and talk about their stories. Some people have never shared their story before, and they didn't have a platform to do it. And so now they have a platform to do it. So I'm doing a lot of them in the community. Some of them have been outside the community. Some of them were fellow authors, and like myself. And that's really the whole thrust of the podcast. It was never something that I was going to do to, make money off of, though, podcasts can get monetized later. But that's really the point, was just to give people a platform to be able to come in and tell their story. And so far it's there's even people outside the U.S. that have tuned into it, and I'm hoping it's touching lives.
I'm sure it is. I know that some of the people that are on your podcast have impacting stories.
Yeah.
And if people are listening to it, which I believe you broke 1,000 already on the podcast in just a short period of time. So that obviously it's reaching somebody. You know what I mean? So it's not up to us.
Yeah.
To you, we just put it out there. God does the work.
Well, and I when you write your book, when you write a story, and you live in your own testimony, I kind of got tired of my own story. I wanted to hear from other people, because when you know what God did for you, but you want to hear what God did for other people, because that's encouraging.
I know that story.
Yeah, I know that story. It's it's kind of old to me now, even though it's a miraculous thing, and I go and share it to people that don't know it, and wrote a book about it. But really, the podcast is about highlighting other people's stories and what has happened in their life, and it's been amazing. So who knows what's going to happen, in the future. I recently I'm applying for the Clean Slate program here, which came out to basically wipe out past record, and I think it's important that I take that opportunity to show other people that it can be done, right? That they can change their lives and live differently than they did, and the Word of God says it. Jesus says, "He who the Son sets free is free indeed." Right? You're not just free from your hurts, habits, and hangups, but a lot of times He frees us from the wreckage of the past and the bondage of our past criminal records and everything else. So it's really amazing what God can do in lives of people that He touches.
So God's working through you in a lot of different ways. Obviously, He's got this book that you're doing. He's got the podcast that you're doing, and then what you do for a living is also reaching people.
It is. I like to call what I do in the secular realms where God has put me. That's not where I thought I'd be. I thought I'd be, in some sort of Christian recovery ministries, and I operate on the periphery of those because I'm friends with all the people that run them, right? But God specifically put me in these secular contexts for reasons I don't always understand. One of those twisting turns. But one thing I can say is that there's special salvific grace that God gives people. He saves them when He comes, but there's also common grace, and these are the things out in the community that are designed to help anybody in the community that comes, right? And these are all of our hospitals, our public prevention systems and treatment systems and mental health services and all those kind of things. God says that the earth is His and everything in it. So He's sovereign over all these systems. So what I do, I consider a service to God, and wherever He puts me, I'll serve. But it's definitely worked out to where He's used me within the arenas that He's put me in, even though I didn't understand why He did it.
Right.
So. But yeah, I get to work with a lot of other ministry leaders in town, and see what God is doing through them. And sometimes we do things in tandem. I'll collaborate with them to come in and talk about the science of addiction. I'll talk about the risk factors of addiction. I'll talk about what's available out in the community so people know where to refer. And I think that one of the chief areas that we need to do education is inside the church around this issue. And so I've been able to do a workshop. I think we want to do some more in the future around this issue, and I think it's important that people understand addiction. That it's not just there were some choices that led up to it sometimes, but once somebody's addicted to drugs and alcohol, like choices kind of out the window. And we believe that Jesus can set people free, but I want people to understand the biological and physical consequences of addiction and what it actually does to us, and what the recovery process looks like, and why people can't just up and quit on their own, barring like some immediate miracle that Christ does, which he does in some people and not others. Some people he makes walk through a recovery process.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like God also made some people like immune to addiction, which is really weird.
well, yeah, I mean, okay, so I think all of us can say like that we probably overindulge in some sort of enjoyable behavior more than we should, right? Some of us are more more prone to overwork. Some are more prone to overeat. Some people have like sex and pornography issues. Some people have addiction issues. We're wired to pursue pleasure, but God gave us parameters to operate in so we don't get ourselves in trouble, and we don't do things in such a way that don't glorify him, right? And so when we operate outside those parameters, that's what leads to a lot of compulsive behaviors that become problematic in our lives. So I think people actually understand it better than they realize that they understand it when it's explained in that way. People have hurts, habits, and hangups. People have compulsive behaviors that they wrestle with, and so in my case, Jesus was a solution for that, and he continues to work on me. No, I'm nowhere near perfect.
Like we're never getting there.
Yeah, but I can say I'm not the man that I was, and I think that's evident. You look at my life before and you look at it now. The internal disposition of my heart has changed, and that has outflowed into actions out in the community, and the way that I treat my family, and the way that I treat other people today versus the way I used to be. And I think that all springs from the joy of the Lord that is in there when God does that work in you. And I couldn't be happier today. I mean, life is stressful, but like it's
Yeah.
we know it's purposeful, right?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I can say that I've learned is that I can't second guess God. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like God says do something, you say okay, I'll do it, and then eventually you might be lucky enough to figure out why.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it becomes evident, but it's not always evident.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of a bigger plan, and it's like, and we get to be on that journey whether we understand it or not. It's like it's an adventure when you become a believer, because it's like a lot of things happen in your life that sometimes are uncomfortable. It pushes us outside of our comfort zone a lot, but there's a lot of joy in it. I wake up in the morning, and I used to hate waking up in the morning because I was like, oh, I have to face another day. And now it's like, yeah, I don't like the things that I have to do during the day sometimes, but like, I get to do those things now, and I get to have responsibility, and I get to manage my life. God has empowered me to be healthy enough to do that, and I get to enjoy sunsets and walking my dogs and sunrises and things that I never appreciated before, and see the good in life where I couldn't see the good in life before. And that all stemmed from this transformational thing that happened to me in prison. And so I don't know what else to say. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole story's in the book. At the end of this book, I didn't just want to tell the story and leave it there. I chapter 12 is the gospel, and it's the good news of Christ. And I wanted people to understand that. It's like, oh, I didn't want people to think, oh, this just miraculous thing happened to Michael. Like, okay, well, how do we get there? How do we get to know God? Okay, so I explained the gospel in the end. So I would just say, there's a lot of resources out there for people that are struggling. But if you want to hear a miraculous story about somebody that everybody had written off in the end, that God wasn't done with, that got his life transformed, then the book would be a good place to start.
Excellent. And the book can be found everywhere, like Amazon.
Yeah, I've checked. It's Target. It's at Barnes and Noble. It's at Book Baby. It's on all of it. It's on Audible. It's an ebook, and it's a print book, which you can get at Amazon. But pretty much anywhere, any of your major outlets. This was produced by Book Baby, and they put them out everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So it's easily found, and you can always contact me directly at Covenant Training and Consulting. You can just Google that here, and I have copies as well. And I do public speaking. So if anybody wants me to come and talk about addiction, they want me to come and I do one-on-one education all the way up to crowds of people to talk about addiction and recovery and how people can access those services. And if you want to hear more about my story, I'd be more than happy to talk about it.
Okay, and then your podcast is also called Better Than Well?
It's called Better Than Well, and that's on that's Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts. It's on iHeartRadio. It's on all of the major ones. And so I think most of my listeners are Apple and Spotify.
Okay.
So yeah, you can find me on Facebook too. I put them all up on my personal and my business account, Covenant Training Consulting. Every Friday they come out. I have a new guest. So far, it's been every Friday, and I may take a break here and there, or may have somebody else host in my place to do it. But there's other people that would probably be great hosts for that podcast too. I want to keep it going. But every Friday, there's 17 episodes out, and every one of them people have responded well to. They're all different stories. Some are CPS stories, CPS involved. A lot of them are addiction. Some of them are just mental health, a lot of childhood trauma and other risk factors that were there. And, there's a variety of different people, different ages, different experiences. And, even though they all have different stories, you see this common thread of pain that happened early on with them that kind of steered them off course. And they ended up developing these problems and habits in their life. And they eventually were able to overcome them.
Yeah,
so.
And your story is pretty amazing. I appreciate you coming on today,
yeah.
and I really appreciate our friendship.
Yeah,
I'm really glad that we're friends. One last thing, you have an Instagram account, right?
Oh yeah, well it's linked to my Facebook. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so your Instagram's is
just look up Michael Prichard. You'll see it.
Look for this on Instagram.
Look for this. You'll see me. Like this in a tie and a vest, and you'll know it's Michael. It's Better Than Well.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So actually, I think that's one of the pictures that I use. So yeah, I have an Instagram account, so you can reach me there. But like I said, the podcasts are on Facebook. They're probably linked to my Instagram too. So.
All right. Well, excellent. Thank you again for coming on, and everybody go and find this guy. Get on that podcast. Get yourself a copy of Better Than Well, and God bless you, man.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
All right. You too.
All right, everybody, welcome Lonnie Pelley.
Hey, everybody, it's good to be here today. I have a little bit of bad news. My bird died. And it wasn't because of COVID. He had chirpy. That's this canarial disease that's untreatable. But I do want to tell you about some good news. I got myself a Latina, and she is mucho caliente sizzle. And when I met this girl before we got married, she said, now, Lonnie, if you're going to date me and maybe one day marry me, you're going to have to treat me with royalty. So I took her to Burger King. She was so extra special that night that for dessert, we went to Dairy Queen. Well, I tell you what, this last July, we had been married 15 years. Yeah, 15 years. And I said, hey, baby, what would you like for your anniversary present? And she said, I got everything I need, everything I want. Why don't you just surprise me and get me something to unwrap? So I bought her a tamale. And she looked at me and said, hey, being married to a funny guy like you for 15 years, what would you like for your anniversary present? I said, baby, I'm not shy at all. So I grabbed her by the hand and I marched her out to that carport. And right there, I said, baby, I want something that goes from 0 to 200 in like 10 seconds. Well, she bought me a scale. And then check this out. It wasn't no ordinary scale. It was one of those high one that talks to you. And so one day I thought, I'm going to try this out. So I went into the kitchen and I jumped on that scale, and that scale yelled, get off. So then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to the old-fashioned scale, the one that has a little dial. And I remember one day I was there just standing on that dial, and I went to posing like this. And my wife came walking into the kitchen. She said, Lonnie, that is not going to help you. And I said, yeah, it is, because now I can see the numbers. So, yeah, I just want to give you a little bit there. So I want to show you a few things, okay? Anybody got an iPhone? Well, here's my iPhone. Look at that. What y'all know about the zit? This is before Apple came out, and my carrier was Fisher Price. And it's amazing what you will find at the dollar store. It says baby's butt ache. It says relief for the unhappy butt. Really? So what do? You sprinkle a little and he cracks a smile. If you guys know how to dance with me, check it out. You can tell all your friends you seen me on Dancing with the Stars. Now check this out. The cat's out of the bag. All you watching Radical Christianity, y'all been cat scared. And I'm Lonnie Pelley.
All right, Lonnie, that was great. That was great. All right, Lonnie. I mean, come on, man. That was some silly stuff there, right? Right? Okay, so now everybody here knows you, right? But you are Fresno's clean comedian, right? I mean, that's like your trademark, right?
Yeah,
Central Valley's clean comedian.
Yeah.
Because you don't just do Fresno, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right, we got lots of funny stuff going on today. You know what I mean? But I want you to take a few moments to tell the audience here your testimony. You know what I mean? How you found Jesus.
Okay.
What Jesus is doing in your life right now.
Okay.
And then we'll continue. So
Okay. Yeah. Hey, everybody. He already announced me, Lonnie Pelley. I'm originally from my mama, but I've been raised here in California.
Wait, wouldn't you originally be from your dad? I mean, didn't it start there?
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, some girl hit me up on TikTok and said that the other night. Anyways, yeah, I've been raised in church pretty much all my life. Accepted the Lord as a young kid, at junior camp, I remember. And then throughout the years, growing up, I kind of gotten away from the Lord. But I was always never too far away to hear when the Spirit would bring me back. So nowadays, what I'm doing, I'm full on into church.
I'm actually my pastor's right-hand man at a New Day Worship Center in Kerman, California. And God is just moving this year like never before. Matter of fact, I need to tell you this, that the Lord spoke into my spirit in January of this year and said that it was going to be a year of firsts for me. So check this out. It's my first time on Radical Christianity.
That's the first.
Hey! So yeah, I've been just doing amazing things with the Lord's help, because it's nothing that I can do in myself. So that's about it, you know.
Yeah.
Just living life, loving the Lord, loving people.
So when did you become a Christian? How did that start? What's the story behind all that? What happened?
I think just it was at the end of camp when I very first started it, way back in the 80s. And unfortunately, I didn't go in like right at the first. I was like that song says, I shall not be moved, and I meant it. I was at the back of the church, and just something just kept tugging on my heart, saying, get down there, get down there. And finally, I just couldn't handle it no more. And I was like, okay, Lord. So I ran down there and gave my heart to the Lord.
So did you go to church with your parents, or?
Yeah, I was raised in an old church called the Gospel Lighthouse, way out in the country. And yeah, but I never really got into it until I guess I got with a bunch of kids that were loving on the Lord, you know.
Yeah. All right. So you're doing TikTok now. Is that your platform of choice?
That's kind of my platform, that and Instagram. I'm doing that more than Facebook now. But I try to hit all the social medias, because being in the entertainment world, you know, you got to be on all the platforms, I guess.
Yeah. Sadly, you got to do it all, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what is your Instagram and your TikTok? What are the channel names? Is it just your name, or what?
It's got the @sign, then Lonnie 1 CRZYGY. Lonnie
CRZYGY.
Yeah, at Lonnie 1 Crazy Guy.
Okay. And they're both the same?
Yeah,
All right.
pretty much everything's my same handle: Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram.
All right. Cool.
And then Facebook, my page is Holy Humor 3.
Okay. So what's the name of the church where your pastor's right-hand man?
New Day Worship Center. That's there in Kerman, California.
Kerman, California?
Yeah, Pastor Rene Covarubia.
Yeah. So how long you been doing that?
I've been with him since 2009. And it was crazy because we grew up in the same, what's called the West Fresno section, 5 churches at the time. And I always thought, one day I'm going to work with that guy. And he's actually a year older than me. So
Okay.
my wife and I came to his church in the summer of 2009. And I've been with him ever since. I said, hey, Pastor, I want to come and work with you. And I've been working ever since.
Okay. All right. So you're at Amazon?
Amazon's my nighttime job.
Yeah. What's your day job?
That's a lot of sleep right now.
Yeah, okay. So that's so cool. So you have no gigs lined up right now because of COVID? Is that still? It's kind of recovering from that?
Yeah, still kind of recovering from that. I have been blessed to be in a lot of independent movies. Mm-hmm. Worked with Michael S. Rodriguez, a good friend of mine. And so that was kind of cool. A lot of my childhood dreams are coming to pass. You know, I told my mom one day, I'm going to be a celebrity, and she laughed in my face. But to this day, my mom will tell people that she's seen me on TV, seen me in movies and stuff. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, is your mom still alive?
Yes.
Okay, so she'll get to see this on TV if she watches.
Yeah. Hi, Mom, you watching?
Now you're gonna get a text. What? All right. So what? You got a T-shirt here? What's this?
Yeah. Check this out. It's appreciation for having me on the show.
Excellent. So this is what does this say here? This says
you got to faith it.
You got to faith it to make it. Comedian Lonnie Pelley.
Yeah. So, this is
Do you sell these online at your tour? Or?
Yeah, or whenever I'm out on shows, I'll have them. It's actually my newest tour. Once I start getting some opening doors and stuff, so
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's based on based on the faith scriptures. You know, we walk by faith and not by sight.
Yeah. Yeah, and we need to, because if we walk by sight, then we're
Yeah.
we're kind of leading our own way. You know what I
Right.
mean? If we
Yeah.
walk by faith, then yeah, we're doing we're trusting God every step of the way.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Right. All right. So, anything going on in the church for Easter? What are you doing at your church?
For Easter, we're actually doing our first ever crosswalk, which we're going to enact the crucifixion of Jesus. And lo and behold, everybody in the church nominated me to play Jesus. So I'm kind of excited.
The long locks.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get some long locks, you see. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll have a wig and everything on. But I'm excited but kind of nervous at the same time. Because we're going to walk from the 145 and Madera Avenue, if you're familiar with Kerman area. So it's going to be about 3 or 4 blocks. We're going to walk to our called Kirchhoff Park, and then we're going to have a whole community outreach with food, worship, testimonies, and then we're going to do a big communion.
Awesome.
So it's going to be. We always give back to our community with our church.
Yeah. When this airs, it'll actually be after Easter, but
right. Yeah,
that's still pretty cool. So yeah, that's awesome. All right, man. So now you said you were in a movie with that Michael Rodriguez. That was the was that called that Day of the Pigs, or what was that movie?
Yeah, there were several. My hat's off to him. He put me in several of his movies. The biggest one right now is Last American Horror Show 2.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 6 mini movies, I'm in 2 of them, which is Terror at Station 13 and Jack Incarnate. Also, Day of the Pigs with Sparkle. Sparkle.
Yeah.
Man, trying to think. We did a World Gone Mad, which was like a little zombie movie trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And what else?
Yeah, that World Gone Mad. Now that's a short film in a short film.
Right. Yeah. And then Lake of Shadows, I don't know what happened with that one, but that one, I want to see that one. That was posted, came out in 2019, but I don't know whatever happened to that one. So.
Yeah, I can't speak to what I've heard on that, but
Yeah.
but it's still probably going to come out. It's just that it's
due time,
being,
right?
Yeah, it's being held up for for
whatever
reasons beyond the public knowledge.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So okay, so where does Lonnie Pelley, I'm going to say your name wrong about a dozen times, if you don't mind.
It's all right.
Lonnie Pelley, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years, man. Well, if the Lord don't come, I would love to get on a tour with some comedians. That would be fun.
Mm-hmm.
To go on a comedy tour, that'd be awesome. But if not, big time, I'm still seeing myself working with Amazon and providing for my family. Still working with the church and taking care of the community, loving people.
Yeah, that stuff's more satisfying anyway.
Yeah. So
very cool. Very cool. Oh man, I'm glad you came and you shared some of your comedy with the fans. Anything you wanna communicate to the people while they're still listening?
Yeah, man, just love on people, man. That's there's so much hate in the world. We need some love, and sometimes I feel my part in the world is just if I can just make a few people laugh or one person laugh, I think I've done my job to encourage somebody and inspire somebody.
Right on.
That's great.
Hey, Lonnie, thanks for coming on to Radical Christianity and sharing with everybody. Appreciate having you here, man, and glad that you're my friend.
I'm glad you're my friend too, because I need friends.
We all need friends, that's for sure, right? Fantastic.
Ladies and gentlemen, this song is called Sanctuary. Well, I can tell you what I've seen so far. Would you listen to me when I say those things? Kill you to hear. I can only take you so far. Rest away on your own. I can offer you a place to hide, cast away all fears, put your worries aside. Heaven forgives, and so must we. Come and rest your soul in my sanctuary. And there's a message inside my words. If only you choose to hear what lies within. Nothing to fear. I can only take you so far. Rest away on your own. I can offer you a place to hide, cast away all fears, put your worries aside. Heaven forgives, and so must we. Come and rest your soul in my sanctuary. Well, I can tell you what I've seen so far. Would you listen to me when I say those things? Kill you to hear. I can only take you so far. Rest away on your own. I can offer you a place to hide, cast away all fears, put your worries aside. Heaven forgives, and so must we. Come and rest your soul in my sanctuary. I can offer you a place to hide, cast away all fears, put your worries aside. Heaven forgives, and so must we. Come and rest your soul in my sanctuary.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today for Radical Christianity. I hope you enjoyed the show. You know, we do a little silly things here once in a while. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not, but you know, it's all in love and fun, right? So we really hope you enjoy yourself. Please, if you get a chance, take your time to come to visit us on our website, which is radforchrist.com. That's RAD number 4 Christ.com. We'd love to hear from you and ask us a question if you got prayer requests, whatever. And then now, there's somebody out there right now who's sitting there and they can hear Jesus knocking on their heart. All this stuff we're talking about, Jesus and God, Jesus is there knocking on your heart. And I just want you to know that we are here for you. I mean, we want to help you deal with this. We want to help you understand who Jesus is. He's there. He's there for you. He's, you know, if you believe in your heart that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins and that God raised him from the dead, you know, you'll be saved, right? He's there. So maybe you just need to like talk to him for a second. Say, hey, Jesus, I know you're there. I hear you knocking. I want you to come into my life and help me be the person you want me to be. You know, if you say something like that, you know, and especially if you said that right now, I want you to go online and fill out the form. If you're serious about Jesus being in your heart and you asked him to be in your heart during this show, we got a gift for you. We have a form on our website You can just fill out, say, I got saved during the show, and we will be sending you a Bible because you're going to need one so that you can learn more about Jesus and God. And the entire Bible is really all about Jesus. I mean, it deals with a lot of characters like King David, but it really is all about Jesus. And I just want you to remember this one really, really important thing. It is essential that you know that Jesus Christ loves you, and so do I. Thank you for watching another episode of Radical Christianity. We love you. We want to see you next time. Chris, play us out.
Better is a one day in your coat. Better is a one day in your house. Better is one day in your coat than 1,000 elsewhere. Better is a one day in your coat. Better is a one day in your house. Better is one day in your coat than 1,000 elsewhere. And I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me. I will I'll hold on to you. No matter what this world throws.
It's a mystery.
If you can't trust, you can't trust me. If you feel you'll fall, hold on tightly. If you're down on love and you feel the storm clouds come, just remember I will keep you close to my love. The rain may fall and the sun it sometimes shines. And though you feel you're lost, I won't leave you behind. We will keep you safe beneath the shadow of my wings, my love. I will keep you close to me, like the sand beneath the waves. I am here for you. Oh, like the birds that fly away, that I will never do. Just know that I am here to stay, like the flowers need the rain, my love. No, I will never change. I will dry your eyes with my palm on your cheek, and you can have no fear, my dear, knowing you are here with me. You will hear my voice like the wind beside your ear, my love. You will never shed a tear, my love. I will always be here. Isn't it amazing how a man can find himself alone? fall into a darkness for an answer that he's never known. And isn't it amazing how a God could take a broken man and let him find his fortune, let him ruin it with his own two hands? Hop up on the hill in a rocking witchy state, looks back at the ground, looks down at his hands, and he says, I am a difference maker. 'Cause I am a difference maker. Oh, I am the only one that speaks to him, and I am the friendliest of friend of God. 'Cause I am a difference maker. Oh, I am the only one that speaks to him, and I am the friendliest of friend of God. I am on the fence about nearly everything I've seen, and I have felt the fire been put out by too much gasoline. We are strangers passing through, place in time and afternoon. Life is but a vision in a window that we're peeking through. Helpless conversation with the man that said he cares a lot until passive confrontation about who might throw a punch or not. We are all transgressors, we're all sinners, we're all astronauts. So if you're beating death, then raise your hand, but sit down if you're not. 'Cause I am a difference maker. Oh, I am only one that speaks to him, and I am friendliest of friend of God. I am a difference maker. Oh, I am only one that speaks to him, and I am friendliest of friend of God. In this house I see many things I learned, like how to be a man without and concern. I think I learned. I think I learned. How do I know which road to take, which road to go? I feel so alone. All I need is help getting home. Lord, save me, Lord, help me now. I need your comfort. I am on my knees. Lord, help me. Lord, can you save me